Hey, excuse me. Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Law Box. I'm all glowing like the moon, but I need the light to see these comics. The old peepers ain't what they used to be. So here we are. This is X-Men 119. And of course, I got to sneeze as soon as the camera goes on, and I'll filibuster a bit before people show up. How's everybody doing? Hey, Matt was here. Matt gave a drive-by. How you doing, Matt? If you're still here, how you doing? How's everything? This is Heroic Tales 2. This is the link to it. Did anybody watch last night? My buddy Mike, childhood friend, came on last night. We just had like an almost 3-hour talk about the comic book store, about comics as a kid. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I miss Mike. He only lives like 15 minutes away, but life gets in the way when you're an adult. He's got wife, he's got 2 young kids. Mike is older than me and married later than me and has young kids, so he's got his hands full. We don't get to hang out as much. It was nice, but Mike is one of the original guys that he taught me how to play Villains Vigilantes. He was the one who found out about the game and brought it to me. I remember being so excited. I remember explaining the concept of this. This is going to be weird if you've never played a role-playing game, but you have hit points, and then Villains and Vigilantes had power points, and that was like your stamina, how tired you were. And I thought that was just groundbreaking, like 2 vectors, how much damage your body could take and how tired you are. And I never went back to Dungeons & Dragons after that. But anyway, Mike and I talked about that all last night. Mike's comic is Marshall Strong. It's part of the Thunder Zone package over on Kickstarter. 6 issues. All 6 issues are done. He's just Dan said does the campaign. He just spaces out the campaigns. So if you back Marshall Strong, you will get all 6 issues. They're complete. So there's that. We got Zach Tan. How you doing, Zach Tan? I got my Sunday blessing. There you go. I got my daily blessing. So like I said, I want to filibuster a bit till people find out that I'm live and start showing up. We only got 4 people. Anybody getting tired of this X-Men series yet? I'm kind of itching now to do Avengers for a while. And well, I'll ask again at the end if we mind if we switch it up. This is my actual copy that I got. So this is my only copy. I got this in a 7-Eleven on the way to my father was a telephone man, and one of his partners, they called them gangs. There was like 6 or 7 guys in his gang, and they all worked together for like years. They became best friends. And his name was John too, and he had a barbecue at his house. So we drove to his house for a barbecue, and we stopped to get like cigarettes for my mother, and we got this comic. And I must have read this over and over again while at the no, that was 114. This comic, okay, so I was aware of the X-Men. I'm wrong. Memories of. So that was X-Men 114 with Jean Grey and Beast on the cover pushing Xavier down the hallway. That was the first. Oh, I'm back. That was the first X-Men I got. That was the one I got on the way to the barbecue. So now I was on the lookout for the X-Men. So that was the weekend. So then I went to the candy store right next to my school, and this was the X-Men that I saw there. So those comics must have been sitting on the newsstand for a while. X-Men was hard to find. Even my friend Mike confirmed last night that the X-Men were hard to find. So this one I bought, and then I never missed an X-Men after this. So for like, I don't know, a decade, I never missed X-Men. So this is 78, 87, so even further. So I would say for almost 20 years I never missed an X-Men after this. I got them every month. But look at this beautiful Dave Cockrum cover, Terry Austin ink. Just look at all these great characters. We got Banshee up here, Wolverine, colored wrong. It's kind of bizarre shading. I Colossus, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Storm, Sunfire. Anybody missing? Not that I can think of. And then this guy in the middle, Moses Magnum. Make way for Moses Magnum. Just a great cover, And this is such a bizarre period of the X-Men. It's like a string of pearls. You know what I mean? Like each issue is a pearl, but then the connective tissue is just like so thin between each story. Like again, I didn't really think of it as a kid, but the what moves the story forward is just so weak and bizarre. They meet Sauron, they fight, and then Sauron's a good guy, and then they meet the Petrified Man, and then they just leave. It's just so weird. But it's so good, so good. Let's see. Yeah, Marcus is here. How you doing, Marcus? How's your father? How's everything? If you switch it up, be prepared to do recaps when you switch back. Yeah. Moses Magnum, MM. So, okay, we got some people here. Comments are moving. Let's open up the book. So you can see this is dog-eared. I got this at, I think it was Fred's was the name of the comic books. It was a stationery store. Oh, that's out of focus because I picked it up. So I gotta stop the extra camera. And then start the extra camera again because I got it out of focus. We got a man droid over here. So I got this, I went to a Catholic school. So here's the Catholic school. Right next to it to the right is the church. Then there's a little street. And then there was the candy store, stationery store. And that's where I bought this comic. And I just was like, oh my God, it's got the Eagle Awards. This is important. For some reason, I thought that was important. And as far as I remember, Marcus probably remembers better than me, but Eagle, I think, was like a British comic book award. So Eagle Award winning comic. I thought that was so important. Like it was like a Wizard magazine for England, even though Wizard didn't exist yet. Look at this Invasion of the Body Snatchers ad. Some delicious Tim Hortons coffee. Oh, wow, that was a good sip. That was really good. Wow. Sometimes, in life, it's just a good comic book, a good cup of coffee. Yesterday was a rainy, miserable day, and I spent the entire day in this chair reading comics. I haven't bought any back issues in a while, and so I'm like, I can take this rainy day to make a dent in this pile of comics. And I read a bunch of stuff. So I'll be doing a comics this week. I got a big pile of comics that I've already read. And I digress, but whatever. I haven't written anything in like 2 months. I just touched up a few things, but I am so far ahead. Like I could stop writing now and still put out comics for like 5 more years. But I want to write like a news article for Patriarch #1. Like the kayfabe is that Regina Lopez wrote it, and it'll be about a specific nature of the legality of superheroes for Patriarch #1. That is the most pressing thing I gotta write. So I'll probably do that tonight, and I gotta start this campaign for merchandise. So that's what I got to do comic book wise. Other than that, I mean, I'm way ahead of everybody as far as writing. Uh, yeah, okay. I don't know why. I just went on I just daydreamed from a sip of coffee. That's the way I am, though. Constantly daydreaming. Are you guys daydreamers also? Oh man, I mean, you could literally talk to me sometimes, and I don't hear what anybody's saying. I am lost in a daydream. That's like I like when I go to work. The foreman will explain something to me, and then they just leave me alone, and it's, you know, provided it's not like live high voltage where you really got to concentrate. I just daydream and work. You know, don't bother anybody. You know, pleasure to work with, I guess. All right, so let's check out this comic. We got here a splash page. So going forward, you know the drill. Look at the comic, look at the comics, look at the comic, look at the comics. So this is a splash page. You know, again, one panel, usually the first page of a comic, but not always. And we got the credits up here. Can we see the credits? No, we can't. Not on the camera. So we got Chris Claremont, author, co-plotters, John Byrne, penciler. So Chris Claremont writes it and plotted it, and then John Byrne plotted it and penciled it. Terry Austin, inker. John Costanza, letters. Glennis Wynn, colors. Roger Stern, editor, and Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. Twas the night before Christmas. So we got the X-Men. Remember, they're in Japan. A string of events brought them to Japan. As far as like this whole string goes, I'll say the beginning of this was they were kidnapped by Mesmero. He used his Mesmero powers to hypnotize them all, and brought them to I don't even know where. Did it say where they were? But they were there for like months, and you know, they had like a whole new personality, and then the Beast investigated them, and then they started to right before they started to wallop on Mesmero, Magneto comes and beats Mesmero, and then defeats them all and takes them to Antarctica. So that starts this whole like epic journey back home. So they're in Antarctica. They defeat Magneto. The Antarctic base collapses. Now they're in the Savage Land, you know. And then from the Savage Land, they encounter Sauron, who turns out not to be their real enemy, and that they help the Petrified Man. And then they escape, you know. Then they make it to Japan. You know, it's just like I like that it's like a struggle to get home, you know. So the X-Men are missing, which seems to be a common story for the X-Men, that they're missing. You know, the Avengers, it would just be they call for their government agency and they go home. So the X-Men are now in Japan. They Xavier left. He thinks all the X-Men are dead, so he went off into space with Empress Leandra. Beast, I assume he went back to the Avengers. So, you know, this is really the first time the X-Men are public, is after assumed death is there in it. So now what do we have here? We got Moses Magnum, who has the ability to create like earthquakes. So he goes to Japan, which is vulnerable to earthquakes, and basically says, make me the ruler of Japan or I destroy everything. Maniac villain. I mean, this is Chris Claremont, you know, one of the greatest writers of all time. He's not giving his villains much depth, wisdom, understanding, sympathy, or anything. They're raving lunatics. Magneto was a raving lunatic. The guy Trask, who did the Sentinels, just hated mutants, you know, which became a staple later on. But I'm trying to think of all the major villains, raving lunatics. Mesmero, sex creep, if you ask me. Magneto, raving lunatic. Who is next? Warhawk was hired, you know, no motivation. He was just hired to fight the X-Men. Vindicator showed up, you know. Now he's not really a villain. Petrock just wanted to be worshipped, raving lunatic. And now all of these villains can be interchangeable at this point. The only cool thing about them is the way they're drawn and their designs. But there's no motivation. There's no subtletiness. They're just raving lunatics. All of the subtlety about the civil rights, about, where is that so far? He was just an absolute crazy person. So look at this. We got Storm riding on the winds, carrying Nightcrawler. All right, so they find out that Moses Magnum is a megalomaniac villain, and he's going to sink Japan unless they make him the emperor. So where's it going? This is the second volcano base. This is just typical superhero comic books. Maniac villains, volcano lairs. Where's all that subtlety of Chris Claremont? Well, it's in here, but it's got ridiculous superhero tropes, and then just great characterization and art. And then we're pretty forgiving about how clumsy it's spackled together, right? All right, let's check out the comments. Marcus says his father's doing better. That's good to hear. Zach Dan agrees. Right, the Eagles were British. Which Eagles? The Eagle Awards. The Eagle Awards were British awards. A few years ago, lunatic villains would be unrealistic. We have seen there are a bunch of lunatics out there. Yeah. Thank God none of these lunatics have power. Could you imagine? That's why, I don't know what you feel. I mean, there's only 2 issues of Heroic Tales, so you don't really know the world too well. I'm writing an issue now that God knows when it'll be published, but it's basically an explosion of world building. I think once that we get to that point, you guys would forgive me, and you just see that bad guys, most people, when given superpowers, become lunatics. And I think that's what I thought when I created my superhero world as a kid, playing villains and vigilantes. Now as an adult making I still feel the same way. The average person would turn into a tyrant if given the power. That's how much faith I have in humanity these days. Oh, actually, my whole life. Let's go to the next page. I love this. So she's flying, and I'm calling BS on this, okay? And you see if you catch why. So Storm is swooping down, and Nightcrawler teleports. Bam. And again, nobody draws a better, sexier Storm. Oh, you can't see it. Nobody draws a better, sexier Storm than John Byrne. Just that is sexy. Little cheeks, just the I think it's the round lines. John Byrne, I can't describe it, but I recognize his lines. They have like a roundness to them that George Perez has a stiffness to him, but I like the stiffness of his lines. But John Byrne, even Neil Adams doesn't have it. There's something about John Byrne's lines that are round. So when he draws women, the women have like a softness to them. Like, dare I be crude, but there's like a jiggle in Storm right here. Like she's womanly. I'm trying to not be crude, but that's the only way to describe it. And I haven't seen any other artists really capture, except for Frank Frazetta's paintings. That his women have like gravity affects them, and again, I'm trying to be as delicate as possible. Good coffee. So boom, Nightcrawler teleports in. Bingo. Now maybe I could breathe again. I couldn't let Storm see how scared I was. One mistake and I could have teleported half in and half out of that steel door. Unfortunately, I landed at the very top of the complex. I can't do Cyclops and others very good up here. I have to get inside. So Nightcrawler teleports into the top floor, ceiling, roof of Moses Magnum's secret lair. Now, does anybody know what I'm calling BS on? Bueller. I'll take a sip of coffee, give people time to see if they noticed what I consider a mistake. Good morning, I'm the Beaupre. Yes, appreciate Storm's contours. That's a good way to put it. Okay, so I filibustered enough. They, over and over again, explained that when Nightcrawler teleports, he has the same velocity. So Storm is swooping down. Nightcrawler teleports. He should have been tumbling. Boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? He should have teleported, hit the ground, run, and tumbled. You know what I mean? It did. So you can't selectively have physics. You know, like Cyclops, when he fires his blasts, he shouldn't have been able to push the boat because that he's pushing the boat. That means all that force is coming up the I-beam and hitting him on the neck. You know what I mean? But Cyclops' neck never recoils. When Cyclops hits a Sentinel, and the Sentinel stands or the Juggernaut, it doesn't push him back. You know, so Cyclops' beams magically dissipate the physics until they hit something, and then that's affected by, but not the beam itself doesn't transfer the opposite reaction unless it does. You know what I mean? That drives me nuts. So Nightcrawler, remember in '94 where they were falling out of the plane in Count Nefaria, and Nightcrawler's like, I can't teleport, I'm gonna die. You know, so they took him, and then Cyclops was ready to sacrifice himself, and then they got him at the last second. For this, Storm is obviously swooping. She's moving fast. Nightcrawler teleports, boom, and he's not moving. That's a mistake. That's, you know, that, and again, I didn't catch that until just now, you know, because I literally haven't read this in probably 15 years. So anybody see the, anybody agree, disagree with me? So now we got Nightcrawler doing what Nightcrawler does, sneaking. I love this panel. Oop, can't see it. I love this panel over here. We got the guard just smoking, and you got this tail. Bap. He should be unconscious long enough for me to do my job. Wolverine would have handled it differently, but I haven't his instinct for the jugular. So Nightcrawler is doing what he needs to do, but he's not bloodthirsty. He's not, he's saving Japanese lives, but he's not murdering people. He's a hero. Once more into the breach. So now Nightcrawler is sneaking into Moses Magnum's facility, and then we have these rounded corners indicating a break in time. So now these are flashbacks. So now we got all the X-Men over here in their glorious costumes. Look how short Wolverine is. Listening to the Japanese Prime Minister, and he's explaining how vulnerable Japan is to this type of attack. We got a supervillain. I forget if Moses Magnum is a mutant. So if anybody knows the backstory of Moses Magnum, I know he was in Marvel Team Up, and I think he fought Iron Fist and Power Man. So he's explaining like a couple of earthquakes at the same time of this magnitude literally could sink the islands. It's not insane to think, plate tectonics happen. So this is no bluff. So here we got this guy. This is the man responsible. Moses Magnum, self-proclaimed heir to Anthony Stark's title of arms dealer to the world. He's brilliant, strong, ruthless, and very, very lucky. Twice he's been reported killed. Twice he survived. See, giant-sized Spider-Man #5 and Power Man Annual #1. Okay, so that's his previous appearances. Thanks to the investigative works of my grand niece Colleen Wing and her partner Misty Knight, we at least know Magnum's base. So I like that. Here's the connective tissue. Why was Colleen Wing and Misty Knight brought to Japan? Because we don't know much about Colleen Wing. We know that she's an investigator. What is it? Nightwing Investigations. Is that Colleen Wing and Misty Knight, Daughters of the Dragon. I love those characters. Why there's not a Marvel movie? They could literally be girl bosses with diversity built right in. Half Japanese, black woman. Go, Marvel, go. Us MAGA chuds will show up and see that if, make it black, make it sexy and black exploitation, and you know what I mean? Oh, man, give it to Quentin Tarantino. We'd go see it. We'd go see it, Marvel. Why don't, talk to me. Throw me a little bit of this. I'm not that greedy. Just a little bit of this. There you go. So they have a reason for them to be there. They find out where the base is. The small group of volcanic islands in the Kuril chain are its defenses are practically impenetrable. Magnum has also made it abundantly clear that at the first sign of attack, he will trigger his Magnum Force. Lunatic. From his volcano lair, he's going to destroy Japan unless his ultimatum is made. Absolute lunatic villain. For all of the Chris Claremont, he understands women and he's complex. This is the biggest cartoon villain ever, and it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So let's keep. Hey, we got Vaughn Coleman in the chat. Hey, Vaughn. Vaughn is the honcho. That's his actual title, given to him by Gnomes in the Night. He's the honcho of Rebel Oasis Comics, which is making Phenomenova. Good guy, active guy, going to comic conventions. He's doing everything right. Check out Phenomenova. Good comic. I think number 3. Yeah, I have 1 and 2. I think the campaign for 3 is 3 still active. Am I misremembering in my dottage? We got Ben Sabar, voice actor. How you doing? So good catch. He was listening to me talk about Nightcrawler. Keeping track of the physics of multiple characters is tough. Yes, I haven't. I wrote 1 group fight scene for a giant size punchline right now. Group meaning an entire team of superheroes. And it is tough to give them all a moment to shine and to keep track of them and to keep their power levels in check. You know what I mean? When Superman's in the Justice League, he's weak Superman, things like that. Yeah. And then I have a couple of fights where one superhero is taking out a group. The one that I always talk about is Marcus is drawing the Public Eye fighting. In the script, originally it was 4 thugs, and then one I forgot about. So I just said, Marcus, change it to 3 from the beginning. That was easier than 3. And then in Heroic Tales 3, the debut of the Raven, it's the Raven literally like hunting and stalking a group of henchmen before he gets to the main villain. And that was rough because I picked a number, and then I had to know where they all were in order for the story to work. And I like Raven. If Batman could jump into a crowd and beat up 15 people all at once, then he's a super being. I don't care if you're Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee, you're going to get overpowered by a group of 15 people. So like Raven knows that, he's less competent than Batman by far. So he had to keep track of where everybody was, meaning I had to keep track of where everybody. It was fun. I hope you liked the story. I like the references. Omnipro, I agree. The physics and dimension Nightcrawler teleports to could be used as a reason that he's able to slow down some. Yeah, but they established that it doesn't. They specifically had a monologue while falling from a plane, and then a few times they made it a story point. So I'm curious now. So if Nightcrawler is falling in this plane, in this vector, could he teleport and change it to this vector? Or is it always the same vector? Because that would be really interesting. Like if he could, he's teleporting, is everything like a plane like this? Not a dimensional plane, but like, it's like this. So could he teleport and change the velocity vector? Because that would be pretty cool. If he could do that. I'm not sure if they ever established that he could or couldn't. I like everybody's asking about Marcus's dad. I like that. He's doing okay. Superman is weak indeed because he's subconsciously afraid of going all out and hurting his termmate. At least that is, okay. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm not going to use my full power, so I'm going to let Batman get punched in the face. You know what I mean? Like, as far as I know, only the cartoon Archer, it was like a running joke, but it's true about how dangerous it is to get knocked unconscious. Like, Wolverine just knocked this guy, Nightcrawler knocked this guy in the granted, he's a guard for a genocidal maniac, madman who wants to rule the world. And of course, I'm thinking, does this guy know what he's doing? Is this just a job? You know what I mean? Is he just a rent-a-cop, rent-a-security guy? Yeah, he's in a hidden volcano fortress. He must know he's working for a villain. So F this guy. But you know what I mean? But he's got knocked out. You gotta go to the hospital. If I'm at work and something hits me on the head and knocks me unconscious, I gotta go to the hospital. That's serious. But but we always take like boom, guy gets punched, knocked out, and then like wakes up and you need X-rays. Is your brain bleeding? Do you have a concussion? Getting knocked unconscious is a big deal. All right, let's go to the next page. Now we got some ads over here. I love all these ads. This is just so much fun. Fun Factory ad is just, oh my God. It's almost like you could map the decline of comic books as with the decline of ads. And it's a symbiotic circle. Surely you must know that. But like as comic sales went down, people stopped advertising. As people stopped advertising, comic sales went down because the prices went up. All of this stuff is what made comics cheap. And here we go. Here's the next page. All right, let's get it up here. Oh, somebody snuck in under the wire. If his teleportation's like portals, then I think he could change the direction of his speed while the magnitude remains the same. Okay, this is a fun discussion. I love this kind of nerdy stuff. Like, does Storm? It's been established that like Storm changes the weather. Like if Storm makes a storm in the desert, she's pulling that moisture from someplace else. And so that could cause repercussions. I like that kind of stuff. It's fun to. Whereas Thor, just magically godlike, Asgardianly make storms. At least that was the way it was when I read the comic. Oh, and Dave, before I started talking about comics, so I could legally talk about this comic. How you doing, Dave? How's everything? Dave Brink, he's got a Perfect 10. Great comic, a lot of fun. Number 6 is coming out, and then the trade paperback is coming out on the heels of that. A lot of stuff coming out from him. I've been looking on eBay to try to get a copy of Earthling #1. Earthling #1 is the only genuine comic I can't find. So, Dave, since I got you here, I saw on eBay there's an art of Earthling. Is that the same? Is that the actual Earthling #1? Because I got the other issues of Earthling, but I haven't read them yet because I got to get #1 first. So there we go. So let's check this out. So we're still in the flashback over here. He's talking about the plans. So here, this is the end of the flashback. Boop, boop. You can see now it turns into square. And I love this little lightning bolt breaking the panel. It's just a nice way of letting us know that Nightcrawler and Misty Knight are communicating through some sort of radio device. Nightcrawler to home plate. I'm inside the crater. No problems yet. Over. Home plate. Copies. Be ready. That's one of the things that drives me nuts. Here's a nitpick that I say every time, because at work, I'm an electrician. We at least once a week, we do a wire pull. And what is that? We pull wires. Sounds funny, giggle, get it all out of your system now. But, most of the time, we're installing pipe work, because you can't just have wires just on the wall. You know what I mean? The insulation will cut, things will burn down. So wires have to be inside a conduit. So we put a pipe. We're drilling and putting the pipes, bending the pipes, connecting the pipes. And now we got the power source over here and the device over there and all these pipes along the way so that the wire can get there safely and protected. But it's empty. So now we got to get the wire into that pipe. If it's short, we stick a snake. Then the snake comes out the other side. We tie a little rope, pull the snake back. Now we got a rope through there. Then we tie the rope to a wire and we pull. Okay. Why am I talking about this? Oh, yeah. So usually you can't see the other side. You can't just wave. There's walls or whatever. So we have walkie-talkies. And the other guy goes, I got the snake. Copy. And then I say, I got the snake. And they're like, I know you got the snake. Copy. And then I say, I know you got the snake. Because when you say copy, what you're saying is repeat. That's, copy means repeat. But everybody uses copy as I understand. Everybody talks weird as soon as they get a walkie-talkie, but they don't know what they're saying. You say over, meaning I'm done talking, or just talk normal. Hey, I got the snake, John. Are you ready to pull? But everybody turns into semi-military guys as soon as they get walkie-talkies. But if we use phones, we don't talk like that. Something about walkie-talkies that turns us into weird pretend military guys. And they all say copy. Copy means repeat. What it is you say copy, so the other person repeats it, so you know that they understand what you're saying or they heard you. So right now, right, Misty Knight says, whole plate copies. No, they don't. If you copy, then you're repeating. Everybody does that wrong. So when you say copy, what you're doing is you're giving them a command to repeat what you just said. So I drive everybody crazy. I do it all the time. It's one of my things. Words have meaning. Like, how you doing? Like I try to listen. We common greetings. Like, hey, what's up? And then people go, I'm fine. And everybody's cool with that. They didn't ask you if you were fine. They asked, what's up? What's up means what's going on, what's interesting. I'm not annoying enough to go, the sky, the ceiling. That drives me nuts too. But like, I try to specifically answer the question, even though I know like we use colloquialism, stuff like that. But words have meaning. Pick the right word. Like Mark Twain said, use the correct word, not its second cousin. And I do the same thing. I always, I said, to paraphrase Mark Twain, use the correct tool, not its second cousin. Like, you don't use pliers as a hammer. Go get a hammer if you need a hammer. Don't use a knife as a screwdriver. Get a screwdriver if you need a screw. Use the correct tool, not its second cousin. I'm annoying. I'm very annoying. So we got Misty Knight over here. We got Colleen Wing. I love that we got these supporting characters in the Marvel Universe tied into this story. Like I said, it doesn't bother me that all of a sudden Colleen Wing is the grandniece of the premier of Japan or the emperor of Japan, whatever he is, because we didn't know that. So it's not changing anything. It's adding something. To say that Wolverine has a retarded cousin who was born amphibious with, that doesn't change anything because we didn't know that. That's fine. A retcon is when you change something. A retcon would be, oh yeah, Johnny Storm and Sue Storm aren't from the same family. One was a foundling from the planet Mercurion. That would be a retcon because we already know it. But to say like, oh, Chili Storm is the Storm's cousin, that's cool. That's adding stuff, So saying that Colleen Wing is somehow related to the ruling family of Japan, fine. That works for me. That works for me. But now we got to remember that. To say that she's not would be a retcon. So now we got Banshee, Misty Knight singling. She says we're ready to attack. And this I like. Fine with me, darling, because I'm all typed up. So Banshee's thinking. Why is he thinking and not talking? Because he's screaming. In the earlier, they would have Banshee talking while flying, but they established that he needs to scream while flying, so he can't talk. So they corrected that. Now he thinks. Now, that's fine. We know what he's saying, but Storm doesn't know. She's not, Xavier doesn't have this mental rapport going up, but it's fine. He nods his head. Storm gets the meeting. The only thing I would do is, if I was to write the comic, I would have Banshee flying, and then when he's taking in a breath, he can't scream. So he's, and as he's breathing, I would have him fall. So I would have Banshee flying like a sine wave, and I would also make it so he can't fly vast distances. You can't do that over the Atlantic Ocean. You know what I mean? Where Superman could fly over the Atlantic Ocean or because, it seems to be less strenuous or whatever. But Banshee, it's strenuous for him to fly. I know, I like that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff makes the comics fun for me. And I guess I'm a nitpick. So now we got Banshee. He screams and blows out this whatever radar device. Dysfunction in Quadrant 4. Total systems failures. Standard first stage alert. It could be an attack. I'll notify Mr. Magnum. Now, this is, I don't know if this is a mistake or whatever, but are these all Japanese people? Are these outside? Like, why are they speaking English? They should have those little triangles like this is in Japan. Like, are they Chinese? Are these international? Doesn't really matter. but that's the kind of stuff that I think about. So Nightcrawler's like, okay. The alarm goes off. He uses his ability to turn invisible in darkness, and leaving me free to sneak down into the basement of this Erector set Disneyland. I've got to move fast. 2. Cyclops' team are depending on me to find a safe route into this rock before they run out of air. That's interesting. Why are they going to run out of air? We don't know. Sets up a little, what's going on here? We got the soldiers running around. Storm just comes in. Oof. As far as I'm concerned, Storm should be super powerful right here. She's right at an island right in the ocean. She has all the moisture she wants. Comes in and just starts whipping them around. Now, keep in mind, Storm is powerful, but at this point, she's not this, they call her a goddess back in Africa, but she's not like she is today, where she literally is the embodiment of all whatever. She's just a powerful superhero for you. And this is, I love this. They got natural weaknesses. We kind of understand their power levels. So she comes in. Banshee's taking out these radars and sonic cannons. This poor guy was listening in on it when Banshee screamed. He's probably deaf. This man minding the cannon will be deaf for a few days, but at least he'll be alive. Okay, so they went out of their way to say that Banshee's not a murderer. And then we got this glorious picture of Storm. Again, contours, is that the word he used? Nobody draws Storm as beautiful and elegant as John Byrne. Jay Lee, Jim Lee, they all draw a fine Storm, but something about like the John Byrne, it activates like the lizard part of my brain. He like I said, she has like jiggle to her, you know what I mean? Like this movement, this fluidity to these lines. That's the word I think. John Byrne has like a fluid line where everybody else is just like a sharp, crisp line, which works when you're drawing machines and robots and spaceships. But when you're drawing women, you gotta have this fluid line. We're doing well, almost too well, but our victories mean nothing if Magnum is allowed to power his Doomsday weapon. So remember, Magnum has the Magnum Force. He could unleash it and destroy Japan if he's under attack. So this is a big risk. This is a big risk, and they gotta pull it off properly. A lot of questions. Let's get to this. Oh wow. Oh, Dave Brink is here. Okay. Copy that. That teases me. Over. Copy 10-4. Stand 5x5. Adding a third Summers brother was kind of stupid, though. Oh, you're talking about adding stuff? Yeah. You know why? Okay, I'm agreeing with you here, because every time they went into the Flash, now they're saying there's the third brother. Well, why wasn't he on that parachute? Why wasn't he on that plane? Or was he born after that? Right? Is he like half alien? I forget now. Refresh me. Yeah. Are Chili and Sue related to Storm? There we go. Yeah. Storm. Well, Storm's just a superhero name. That's like saying Miss Dr. Spider-Man is related to Peter Parker because he's Spider-Man, but Dr. Spider-Man. I wonder if Banshee has extra durable lungs in a voice box. I'm sure like an opera singer, they do breathing exercises so they can hold their notes longer. I mean, it would just make sense that Banshee would have healthy lungs. Like they show him smoking a pipe though. That's kind of funny, right? Oh. How does Banshee's powers allow him to fly? Because of the wings and the vibrations and the magic science, and it just does. He just flies because of but I know it's ridiculous that he can fly, but he needs to scream in order to fly. Kind of makes sense that minions would be foreign henchmen. Yeah, it does. That's just a nitpick that is not needed, but that's me. Can Banshee control all sound waves or just his own? Just his own. He produces sound waves. Sonic scream. Now, the thing about Banshee, and this is a nitpick, he screams. So, and then they show it like a ray coming out of here, and red for whatever reason. to me, sound travels in all directions. So if I had Banshee, I would have, like, he would be really tough to have in a team because his sound goes in every direction. So like everybody else on the teammate, every teammate of Banshee would be affected by his powers. In my mind, that's it. It's like if you have gas attack, everybody on your team would have to have gas masks or at least immunity to your poisons. So to have Banshee scream and then just use rays, to me that's not right. Banshee screams, everybody hears it. You know what I mean? Like if you had Medusa on your team, like everybody would have to have like special sunglasses or something like that. So, but that doesn't answer your question. He cannot control other people's sound, as far as I know. Maybe today they changed it, but as of now, no, he cannot control other people's sound. The best he can do is match your frequency and cancel it, but that's because he's using his power to knock out your power. The nitpicking of Banshees and Storm's power probably from Byrne. Yeah, Byrne does do that stuff. It's one of my favorite things about Byrne is he thinks about how powers work and uses them in pretty cool ways. Yeah, you're probably right about that. I think Storm's costume, va-va-voom. Miss Marvel's black costume has the same effect. Yeah. I love when Byrne draws Carol Danvers in that costume. What are my sound-based characters, John? Do I have any sound-based characters? I know I do. You caught me off guard. I know as a kid, I had a character named Vox. Vox, Decibel, but I know I had players with sound based. I think one was Klaxon, and I made up like a mutation, like a monster, and his name was like Susurrus. What other? I know I have more. I'm going to have to go through all my sheets, but I don't have any planned for my comic books. But I know I had one who's he was like a force guy. Like his voice could manipulate you, but it wasn't really a sonic attack or anything. And that was more because it was like his voice compiled with like his gaze. So, he would do it to just one person at a time. And if he did it to a crowd of people, it wouldn't be as effective. But that's not really what you're talking about. But yeah, I got to look through my sheets. I know I have sound-based characters. I got to look through. I have a list of like 2,000 superhero names that I didn't even use. We have Decibel, who can manipulate the volumes of sound around it. There you go. That's a great one. I like the way you turn it feminine. That's great. That is really good. I love Dave's names for superheroes. But sound. Now I gotta. Crescendo, a musical-based one. I had a guy, and I made him silly on purpose. He was the maestro, and he had a wand, and he used like musical attacks, stuff like that. But he was, he's not going to be in my comics. He was like purposely like a Silver Age DC type character. Like musical notes would appear, and he would hit you with musical note stuff. I made him goofy on purpose. Let's go to the next page. Ads. We got the Shogun Warriors. Look at that ad. Look at this Masonic symbol on him. I just realized. The Shogun Warriors. And then we got this. Believe it or not, in 1978, this was like the first time like Japanese cartoons and toys started to become popular. There was like a couple of like almost like waves at the beach before Japan culture just like finally knocked down our defenses and the water tsunami just burst. But like there was a couple of like 1978 is the first one that I could remember. We had the Shogun Warriors, and then we had the Micronauts. Before that we had like a Gigantor and there was a couple like 8-Man was a cartoon. We had a lot of Japanese influences, and then it kind of disappeared for a while. Then it came back. Like first comics, they had like the manga, like Area 88, Maya the Psychic Girl, Lone Wolf and Cub, and then kind of went away. And then boom, nowadays it's just like, Japanese comics and culture and cartoons are more popular than America. They finally wore us down. Omnipro, John, did you save all your VB character sheets? Do you always know you would bring them to life? No, I have them right there. When every character that you've seen in my comic book has a sheet. So someday I would like to make a Villains Vigilante supplement, a book. And Scott Bizarre, the owner of Villains Vigilante, he's the one that suggested it, but he's real flaky. So I was just thinking, like, just go ahead and make it. You know what I mean? And make it a comic book. Like, if I do it through them, it's I don't know. I was just thinking of literally just making a comic book and, like, sue me, bro, kind of, and just make character sheets of all, like, official Villains Vigilante character sheets of all my characters. I'm not going to do the loose leaf. I'll make it look like an actual Villains Vigilantes book. Maybe I'll talk to them and be like, you'll get a percentage of the profits, and there won't be any profits because there never is. Things like that. It's a dead system. This guy should be happy that somebody's actually interested in talking about it. But that's what I'd like to do. So any with the exception of like Regina Lopez doesn't have a character sheet. She's not a super, but and so far the patriarch's wife and kids don't have character sheets. But like anybody in a costume with a name, they have character sheets. And when I write the stories, I have the sheets over here to remind myself the Raven doesn't shoot lightning. Mary Sue doesn't have flame powers, things like that. And I stick to their powers on the sheet. The only wiggle room is when their eyes start to glow. You'll see, it's called a power surge. It's when you're taking too much power, and that literally gives you brain damage, which could cause you to think that you are the last prince of Atlantis or the son of Odin. You know what I mean? Like, you're just a normal guy calling yourself Thor. Hey, look, I'm going to take the motif Thor, and like a wrestling guy, you're not really Thor. You're just playing along with it. But then after you have these power surges, your brain starts to you really think you are. You start acting like them. The next thing you know, you could use too much power and affect reality. So there's going to be a story about what happens when you power surge gone wrong. I almost gave away too much. So why are the X-Men concerned? Why is Nightcrawler concerned about the air? I love this. So now, lightning rips up the crater constantly, now illuminating the sky with heavy thunder. So that's Storm. Storm's up there. It's like Gandalf fighting the Nazgul on Weathertop. But below the ocean, just at the same time, offshore, just about 100 feet below the seabed. What's going on? We got the rest of the X-Men and Sunfire are making their way towards Magnum's base in a unique style all their own. How's your power holding up? I have sufficient. How's that for a sentence? How's your power holding up? I have sufficient. I would prefer using a more direct attack, sneaking up on Magnum with this tunnel. I feel more like a thief in the night than a samurai. Are you all right, Wolverine? The heat. I've stood worse. So what are they doing? Cyclops is tunneling with now again, since we were talking about physics, this is a perfect example. In issue 116, Cyclops shot his I-beams into the ocean and propelled the boat. So why isn't Cyclops being repelled backwards by blasting the wall? Because it's understood that Cyclops beams ignore physics until the moment of impact, right? Obviously, this is getting destroyed, but there is no equal and opposite reaction with Cyclops beam. They're magic. That is, otherwise his head would be flying back, or his body would be flying back, or his neck would break every time. You know what I mean? Except when he needs it to propel a boat. So yeah, he's got a physics on-off switch. And if he could do it to propel a boat, why didn't Cyclops just go flying out of the boat? That's the physics that annoys me. But whatever. So he's blasting, and then Sunfire is fusing it so that it's not going to crumble on, and then Colossus is just stomping on his merrily way. And they got oxygen tanks. I love it. They just have masks. They don't have a tank on their back. They just got a mask. You know what I mean? What's this magic science? You know what I mean? Shouldn't there be like a hose to oxygen? But they got a little capsule over here. They got a capsule over here, so that's enough. It's the only way of reaching the heart of Magnum's complex undetected. Still no signal from Micro. Without his radio beam to give us price, target was stuck. Tunneling blind, we could punch through the ocean instead of Magnum's base. Where are you, mister? We're running out of time. And air. We got Nightcrawler invisible. This chamber looks perfect, but it took longer to find it. I better activate the homing. Cyclops must be getting worried. So Nightcrawler finds a good spot for them to emerge, activates the signal. There. Go. Then let loose. Boom. And they blast out. I love it. I love it. Sneaky. It's just so cool. I thought this was just awesome as a kid. So they're literally digging underneath the base. Nightcrawler finds a spot near the outside, but inside enough so that, boom, and they blast through. Fresh air. I didn't have anything to smell so good. So there you go. There is no X-Men. Nightcrawler, Kurt, where are you? He's here, but he's in no shape to answer. I am the master of the Earth, Armored One. No one moves through it without my being aware of them. You thought to take me by surprise? You have failed, as I have dealt with your misanthropic companion. So I shall deal with you. So let's take a moment to check out backgrounds. Nice establishing shot. Another establishing shot shows that they're going underwater. And now, where are they? They're digging. So this must have been, John Byrne only had to draw these figures. Backgrounds were just, I don't even know. Maybe Terry Austin or the colorist did that. Look at the backgrounds, minimal, a little bit of machinery, Nothing over here. So I wonder, like, John Byrne cheating to get the comic book done on time. But it's awesome, so we don't notice because he's a master. You don't have to kill yourself with all the details in the background if you got some clever action, over here. And I love this. So Moses Magnum, I didn't know who he was. This is the first time I've ever seen him. But right over here, he says, I am the master of the Earth. So we know his powers are Earth-based. No one moves through it without my being aware. Perfect. Makes sense. You're the so he's picking up the vibrations. He's got this earthquake tectonic powers. He's feeling something moving around. Perfect. The X-Men had this great plan, but they still can't account for everything. Boom. And now he punches Colossus, establishing himself as a badass. So let's check out the Ben Voice. Ben Voice actor says, Shogun, those figures go for so much now. I wish I had mine. Seeing how cool those old comics are is always a bit bittersweet, knowing they're lost to magic. Yeah, I know, but they're still here. I was talking with my buddy Mike last night, and then my friend Cameron was in the chat, and he says that they collect old comics now. So you can still go and get these great comics that are new to you. I have no idea what's going on in the X-Men and the Avengers nowadays. I thought Colossus didn't need to breathe in his armored form. I think you're right. Now, I could chalk this up to maybe they didn't know it at this point. Did he not know he needed to breathe? Or was he just being careful? Or was he in human form for the longest time? But yeah, I don't. Good catch. Colossus doesn't need to breathe in his armored form. Is he wearing an oxygen? Yeah. Again, this is the early days. Maybe they didn't know. Are they just being careful? Right? This is the kind of stuff like Wolverine says, I haven't been to Japan since I was a punk kid. The issue before this. You know what I mean? The X-Men weren't fully developed. You know what I mean? Like, literally, this is the beginning. This is what, like 4 years which is a long time, but over the course of what like 78, so we'll I'm to 80, 40. So 40 years of these characters, a lot of backstory has been filled in, but 4 years is a long time, but it's not a long time. It's only 1/10. So yeah, so who knows? Hey, Oscar's here. How you doing, Oscar? I was just what was I talking? I was talking to Arkham. Oh, he was asking coloring questions. I said, talk to Oscar. Talk to Oscar. Oscar's a good guy. But good to see you, Oscar. How's everything? Maybe for those of you who don't know, this is Oscar Carano. He's doing the coloring for Heroic Tales and Patriarch. Maybe he needs the mask to talk. I think he likes breathing too. Good point. Maybe there's a radio transmitter in it too, in case he gets separated. Good point. Yeah, and if he's not breathing, he can't talk. Okay, I'll buy that. But there you go. That's how you earn a no prize, ladies and gentlemen. It's cold over there. What is the temperature here? Now you got me curious. 43 degrees. I know that's cold for most people, but when I work outside, as long as the number doesn't start with a 3 or lower, it's warm for me. So let's turn the page. Oh, we got advertisements over here. I love these ads. So this is a Marvel House ad. Buy all these Marvel magazines, these comics, Treasury editions. Those are the oversized ones. More shop by mail. Play guitar in 7 days. This is all lost. We don't, Marvel is only house ads, right? Do they even have movie ads in modern Marvel comics? And there we go. Boom. I love this. I remember just thinking this was the coolest thing. That punch. Can't remember when I've been hit so hard. I'm going like a rocket. I must stop myself before I fly off the island. Strain almost more than I can bear, but I won't. I can't give in. By the White Wolf. I did it. So Moses Magnum gets hit up. Moses Magnum hits Colossus so hard. And of course, I got to bring up my Villains Vigilantes rules. There's a rule called knockback. So if you get hit for 10 damage, your body has what's called structural points. I know it sounds a lot of math, but it gets really quick when you get used to it. At first, it's overwhelming. I understand that. But your body has a structural rating. So let's say the average human being has a structural rating of 4. So boom, you get hit. You get hit for you take 4 hit points of damage. So it's 10 damage. Boom, your body takes 4 points of damage, and then there's 6 that's unaccounted for. Well, your body absorbs 4 because it's the weight, and then that 6 will knock you back, so you go back 6 feet. Boom. So again, it's really cool. So you think about it, you're going back 6 feet, so you got to be like, so if you're a good superhero, you could be like, I'm going to stand over here, and you call the knockback. I'm going to hit this guy like you're playing pool. Cyclops does this, and so like I'm going to go over here, shoot this guy so he gets knocked back out the window. So I don't do a lot of damage because I can't do a lot of damage, but the knockback could cause him to go out the. So there's 6 damage forcing you out the wall. So now you hit the wall at a speed of 6. You roll the dice, see if you break the window, and then you fall out the. It's you know what I mean. It's so much fun. So here Colossus is taking. Look how much knockback damage he's taking. So this guy got hit for like 50, 60 damage. You know what I mean? Boom. You figure Colossus, his body's big and heavy. So let's just say his body structure is 10. So even though 10 is absorbed by his mass, he's still getting hit like a rocket. So this, to me, established how powerful Moses Magnum is. Once again, I've let my comrades down. I'm supposed to be the strongest X-Men, yet I've been used to make them a walking punching bag. That will happen no more. From this moment, Colossus earns his keep. I got to admit, Colossus has been Worfed. You know what I mean by Worfed? You watch The Next Generation. Worf is supposed to be the biggest badass in Starfleet, but all he does is get beat up by everybody to show how badass. Worf is just used to show how bad everybody is. What do they call that? He's a jobber. It's true. Colossus hasn't really got a chance to cut loose yet. So this, to me, is like, ooh, okay. because and it makes sense. Colossus is kind of a gentle giant. He's he's a poet. He's got like a soft personality, which I think is kind of a cool contrast to how powerful he is. If Wolverine had Colossus's powers, he would just be Mr. freaking murder guy. You know what I mean? But Colossus, I like that contrast of this gentle soul in this tough guy body, and that's what I'm trying to do with the Patriarch. I had a private conversation with somebody, and it's just like, you kind of making Patriarch like ineffectual, and I'm like, I'm trying to make it so that like his first reaction isn't to come out swinging. His first reaction is to trust and try to reason with people, because I'm trying to think, what would a dad do in a situation, and so now he's got me doubting a couple of other things. Like, it's almost, you could say it's his weakness. Patriarch is too trusting. With the Subterranean, he trusted the Subterranean in issue 2. Is that a weakness? Kinda. But so I'm thinking I got to show him with like more decisive, not violence, but more decisive leadership stuff in the future. So I love this. So we established that Moses Magnum has power over the earth. He could detect vibrations in the earth. He's physically strong, and now he's shooting blasts. So this is Magnum. Magnum's dossier said he was a normal man, yet he fires bolts that hit like atom bombs. Watch it, Wolverine. No sweat, boss. I'm ready for him. So some dialogue brings us up to speed. Who is this guy? Where did he get these powers? Is that so? I am not the man I was, X-Men. I am no longer a man. I am power! Boom. And he just belts Wolverine. My God, he decked Wolverine. Sunfire, blasted opening to the outside. We need Storm and Banshee's help. I go Cyclops, but I fear even your friends won't be enough. Magnum is taking our strongest energy beams and laughing them off. So Banshee, Cyclops calling us on the radio. He sounds desperate. So boom. I could destroy you where I stand, Mute, but why should I waste my power when my Mark II Mandroids could do it for me? Oh, brother. I picked a hell of a time for a one-man stand. So now, this is pretty cool. So Magnum is just, he knocks out Wolverine. He tosses Colossus aside. He's firing blasts that makes the arrogant Sunfire get a little nervous. They call it in the reserves, and now he's leaving. Is this Claremont telling us that he's a glass cannon? Is he tired now? Did he do everything show off, and now he's got to leave to recoup his powers? If so, that's really cool. So now he's got the. Otherwise, this is just supervillain trope. I could destroy you, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna just toy with you. No, I would like to think that like he's blustering right now. Like right now, he's at an ebb. He thought that he arrogantly came out, guns blazing, blah 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 blah, blah, and now he's tired, and now he's got to go recoup. That's what I would think. I don't know. Let's see. It's, like I said, it's been a long time since I read this comic, but like, why should I waste my power? Inside, if we saw his thought balloons, he's like, oh man, I just went all out. They're still up. I got to go rest for a second, or drink a monster drink or something like that. Get some coffee. So now he has the Mandroids going in to finish off the thing. Again, if he's got superpower and he's just toying with them, that's just lame. Even for a tropey maniacal villain, which he is at this point. And they also established that he was a normal human. I forget if they explained how he got this power. And that could also explain how he became such a maniac. If he's a normal human and now all of a sudden he's got this power, is it affecting his mind? These are the kind of things that I would do, But anyway, let's check out the Oscar says, I can't remember the time when they advertised. Yeah, they disappeared from comics. And it's a real shame because that's what made the comics affordable. That's why the comics are like $5-6 now. Because the advertising made it so that it was cheap for us kids. Lots of no prizes in this issue. Who's the editor? Roger Stern is the group editor. Jim Shooter is the editor-in-chief. Your boy, Zach Matters, go to church, old man. Well, that's real funny coming from a guy who makes porn movies. Right? Do you go to church, your boy, Zach? I know it's a parody. It's one of my favorite So I'm not really mad. I'm just playing. I'm playing along with it. My favorite comics, X-Men and Spider-Man, are trash now. Great art, but the stories are really bad. Yeah, it looks like Marvel turned the corner and went back to good art. Like for a while, it was just, pathetic art. Cheapos that they found on what is it, Deviant Art or whatever, Tumblr. But I'll take your word for it that the stories look bad. But the clips that I see out of context on Twitter aren't doing much good for the writing. What's the Ra's al Ghul as a transgender grandniece? Knock it off. It seems Magnum first appeared in giant-sized Spider-Man 4 and Spidey versus Spidey and the Punisher, then seemed to die in battle with Luke Cage before this issue. Yeah, that they said that it looked like he died a few times. Moses Magnum. Talk about a 70s blaxploitation hero. I got a 70s blaxploitation team that I want to do this story so bad. I don't want to spoil the names, but it's a team of blaxploitation superheroes in the 70s doing kung fu and fighting witches. There we go. Let's turn the page. So now we got Colossus. Colossus has been he had his pride hurt. He had his masculinity hurt. He's the strongest X-Men and he's not pulling his weight. So now he's got so is he going to get sloppy? He's going to so he goes in there. No. Send 2 of your metal monsters against the X-Men Madman, or send 200. Colossus will smash them all. I love the way, like, not I will smash them all. Like, we got to remind the audience that his name is Colossus. What a great name. That is such a great name. I love these X-Men names. Banshee, Colossus, Wolverine. They're so descriptive. Storm, they're short, they're sweet. They're the best superhero names. So now he's just blessed. And look at this power blast that this Mandroid fires. That looks like that would have just crisped Cyclops, just blasted him into giblets. So Colossus is just holding one, punching another one, throwing one at the other one, tossing the Vandanium steel combat suits around like they were rag dolls. You want to battle mutants, but you'll lose the war. I swore that if attacked, I would destroy Japan. And by all the devils in hell, destroy it I shall. Heads up, Sean me bucko. Magnum's taking a powder. So he's not retaliating. This is bolstering up my idea that maybe he used a little bit more power than needed. He's a glass. Is that the term? A glass cannon? Too slow. Curse the luck he got away. I must be getting old. But once I blast these doors, no good. Something's deflected me. Sonic scream. Now what? I can't stand here while I let Magnum sink Japan. Wait a minute. Mr. Osama said that his scientists figured the Aragishima quake was triggered by an intense beam of energy. On the radio, I heard somebody screaming about Magnum firing energy blast. It's a long shot, but I got to play it. If the Magnum Force is some kind of energy beam, then I'm the only X-Men who has a prayer of stopping it. Cyclops, get everyone off this rock, and for pity's sake, hurry. I know I'm reading a lot of this, but I got to set this up for what happens next. I warned them, but those senile fools in Tokyo wouldn't listen. Now they'll learn once and for all that Moses Magnum is not to be trifled with. He runs, he could feel the power burning within him, struggling to be free, and he can't help remembering those last moments months ago on the island of Katsuoshima when a massive earthquake had toppled him screaming into the shaft his laser drill had bored into the center of the earth. So this is Power Man Annual number 1. He should have died. So now we're getting a little cheesy recap of his origin. So he was boring into the center of the earth. He fell into it. He should have died, but as he fell, the laser beam, the exotic weaponry, the combat suit, the elemental force of the quake itself had combined within him in some mad arcane fashion to give him the primal power, the ability to focus the infinite amount of energy anywhere on the earth in any manner he chose, in this case to create an earthquake. Cheesy origin, but at least they explained it. So he was threatening the world in Power Man Annual number 1. He fell into the beam, and he got the power of the beam. So now he could channel the powers of the earth. That's the Magnum Force. So what does that mean? mean, he's got the power of the earth. The story will dictate what he needs to do. Let's check out the comments. I think Moses is leaving in order to implement his grand scheme. Yes, he's making do with his threat. How did Magnum shoot energy beams again? As far as I remember, he has sonic powers. He has the power of the earth itself, and we all know, Dave, the earth can shoot beams. Right? It's not very well explained, is it? The earth can shoot beams. Why the obsession with status quo? Dan Slott make evolve Spidey after Superior, then Hickman got right the correct. But why return with the stuff? I don't know. I can't answer that. Dave, Chuck Dixon explained that comic books need the illusion of change. You know, if the wonder and problem at the same time of comic books is that it's fantastic. And you know, look at this now. The X-Men have been getting from Antarctica to Japan, and it's taken a year because comic books are monthly, but it's not supposed to be a year. You know, like the whole, like if you were to take all the Fantastic Four came out in 1962, so we'll round that to 60. So that's 40 plus, so 60 years the Fantastic Four have been in operation. But we really know that it's not really 60 years. John Byrne compresses the entire Fantastic Four's history into 7 years. So it's this weird, comic book time is weird. You know, that's why I think it works best when they don't mention the presidents. You know, you have one Christmas issue every 5 or 6 years. You know what I mean? Because if you keep referencing Christmas, you can be like, well, shouldn't they be 40, 50 years old? So they keep going back to the status quo because it's not really a long time in the Marvel world. You know, which brings, so you have the illusion of change. You know, little kids grow up fast and then stop growing. That they do that in soap operas, they do that in comic books. You know, because they want Spider-Man to be around for 70 years, but you don't want Spider-Man to be a 90-year-old man. It's just, you know, comic books are weird. You know, the more you think about them, the more weird they are. But we love him. Colossus is my favorite X-Men. He's fast, durable, and strong. His steel body does not hinder his movement. He's flexible. Yeah. He's magic organic steel. You know, he's not real steel. And I like to think that these lines give him the flexibility. You know, that they're like kind of like plates. Like if you were to be there, you could see that they would overlap. Like, you know what I mean? And I love all of these X-Men. I'd be hard pressed to pick my favorite. Maybe Cyclops at this point. Cyclops hasn't been ruined yet. I know Stippling Vaughn doesn't like Cyclops, and I don't blame him for his reasons. You know, and here we got the X-Mel. So I like looking at the names. Felipe Nippon, Scott Stevenson. How's that for a fake name? Tom Cornell, Jeff Daniels. That's interesting. No women. I've been pointing out that like most of the comics were written by letters were women. Now it's all guys. We got the Pizzazz ad, all the Spider-Man, be a draftman. I wonder, did anybody ever actually get this job? Did anybody ever fill us out, get this job? I know none of us, but in the history of the world. So outside. So what does Banshee do? Banshee flies outside, and somebody just asked before, can Banshee control other sound? No. But what he does do is he sets up sound and harmonics and whatever. So he's making a counter frequency. I got to slide a wall of sound around the base of the island, counters energy with energy block. So he's blocking Moses Magnum's energy. Something's wrong. Must increase power output. No margin for error. I have to match Magnum's energy frequency exactly. Glory, it hurts. Well, if I got to go, at least I go out in style. So I like this. All the X-Men are covering their ears. So Banshee is screaming like a banshee. He's screaming like he's never screamed before, and he's setting up a counter frequency to Moses Magnum. The battle rages on for seemingly eternity. The eerie, unnatural silence that grips the island is broken here and there by cries of pain, and the X-Men and the mercenary alike are cut down by sonic bombardment, too high-pitched to be heard, only felt. And then in the twinkling of an eye, it is over. So Moses Magnum fires his bolt. Banshee screams. They hit. Boom. And just explode the island. Japan is safe. Which begs the question, are all the henchmen dead? Did Banshee, I don't want to say murder, did Banshee kill all of those people to save Japan? It's best not to think about it. It's a full day before the weather calms enough for the search planes to enter the area with their initial reports are terrifying. So why didn't Storm dismiss the weather and make it calm? You know what I mean? Storm can control the weather until she can't. Sonar readings indicate that the whole shape of the seafloor has been changed. Seismographs the world over went off the scale. If all that energy has hit Japan. Fuel's low, Miss Knight. Do we continue the search? Major, we've only just begun. Please, Lord, I hope they make it. I don't want to have to tell them X-Men are dead. So she hasn't spoke to Jean. Jean thinks the X-Men are dead. She doesn't. I like that continuity. Dead ahead, what's that like? Sunfire. Amaterasu be praised. They see me. It's a miracle the X-Men survived. An instant before the isle flooded, Storm flew Cyclops, Colossus, and Wolverine out while Nightcrawler teleported to safety. And Sunfire didn't carry anybody. Why didn't he carry anybody? He could have carried Colossus. Everyone looked. Sunfire's found a plane. We're rescued. About time, Elf. How's Irish? We're not good. I fear he may have burnt out his power. And worse. The power of Primal. Has anyone been a welder of this? Has anybody else? I know Moses Magnum came back in a later X-Men comic, right around by the time I quit Marvel, and he was just like he was on a council as a wise leader of like wise black people. It's like, dude, this guy tried to destroy Japan. He tried to blackmail the earth. This was a raving lunatic, but because he's black, he's now like a wise, like Wakandan leader. It's just so stupid. It's just like skin color worship of these stupid liberals, you know. So Banshee sacrificed, you know, his power to this. Now we got Power Man and Iron Fist. I love this. Marcus, are you still around? Who drew this? Who drew this? This is great. I love this ad. We got more ads over here. Man, I just got hungry all of a sudden. And now we got, you know, Shiro Yoshida's house 10 days later. Here you go, Kasari-san. Take care. Thanks, Doc. Thanks for the lift. Thanks for seeing you. I wonder why no one was at the hospital. They knew I was being released today. The doc said they could never left the waiting room while I was in a coma. 3 days. It was all touch and go. I almost died. But after this caper, I have a nasty feeling that all be caught in the Reaper. I'm destined to die in bed. I wish one of the X-Men had come to see me home. It's not like them to be forgetful. I hope nothing's happened. It's a little thing, I suppose, but it shows you how empty my life is. So woe is me. He used his power so strenuously that he knocked himself into a coma. A little thing. They should have come to greet me, but they didn't. I wonder if I could get a phone call to. And he opens the door. Merry Christmas! So it's a surprise party. They were goofing with him. So, you know, we got Sunfire, Wolverine's in his costume, Storm's. She seems to wear this outfit a lot. Colossus wears this a lot. Nightcrawler's in his costume. Albeit it is Christmas. The day that's totally slipped me mind. Don't talk, Sean. Look, from looking at face, you can tell how he feels. Good to have you back. Come on, let's have some punch. Wolverine, Mariko. I've seen her trying to see, but she's no. Now's my chance. So, you know, Wolverine's got the yellow fever. He's going to go and chase Mariko, who's dressed like a 17th century geisha. Got to go, Oro. Something personal. Don't worry, I'll behave myself. And I like what Storm says here. Odd. I've never seen Wolverine sound or act so gentle. It's a nice change. So much have changed since we six became X-Men. We began as loners, and we've grown into a family. And so I just want to tell you that I love you very much. And she gives Wolverine, Nightcrawler a kiss. I love that. He's just like, and you know, it's a goofy little comic thing, but think about it. how many people, how many times has Wolverine, Nightcrawler, been given like a kiss? You know what I mean? Is this literally his first kiss? I mean, he's been ostracized. He looks like a demon. You know what I mean? I mean, nowadays furries would be chasing them all over the place, but like, you know, and then they later on they gave him that girlfriend Amanda Stefton, but like, you know, I like it. He's just like flabbergasted. And then Colossus, of course, is pining away for his family. Remember, he out of all the X-Men, he has a family. He has a little sister to is established, a mother and a father. You know, I'm liking this. A little downtime to get some characters, get some character development. Omnipro, the Power Primal, is it? Oh, okay, we talked about that. The Vulture was 90s forever. His villain career should have only lasted 5 years. Villain career should have lasted one adventure. You know, 90-year-old, my hip. You know what I mean? Colossus was supposed to be the breakout character. Oh, really? I always thought that all the X-Men were just like an ensemble cast. Like nobody was the breakout character, but I believe Marcus. Then why the necessity to introduce Miles? I like more Peter as an adult with family, stressful as mentor of Miles. Yeah, they introduced Miles because they were hedging their bets. They thought the Ditko estate was going to win. You know, they were preparing for. Remember, the Ditko estate was suing to get the rights to, or at least more creative control or more money out of Peter Parker Spider-Man. So they made Peter Parker ineffectual goof and then made Miles Morales. Okay, you got Peter Parker, you got, you know, but now we continue with our Spider-Man. You know, that's why I call him Scab Spider-Man. That's why I laugh at all the progressives who champion Miles Morales when he was created to undermine creator rights. Miles sucks. That's a quick way of saying everything that I just said. And the X-Men taking their homo superior role, protectors of the Earth, are sick of the rejection to leave to another planet, leaving humanity. Yeah, because they got rid of their hero. The fact that one of the things that we liked about the X-Men was, you know, not at this point. At this point, they were saving Japan from a maniac. They were fighting to stay alive from Magneto, fighting a sex creep, Mesmero, and then before that, they fought Trask with the Sentinels, who wanted to get rid of mutation. So one story was about mutation, but even when they got into "woe is me, we're mutants," the Crybaby era, which is coming up right after John Byrne leaves, the Crybaby era, the X-Men were heroes because they knew they were never going to win, but they never gave up until they did, and that's when they stopped being heroes. You know, Peter Parker knows he's never going to solve crime, the concept of crime. So he's just doing what he can, you know. That's what makes him a good guy, is he knows it's a never-ending quest, you know. But the X-Men gave up. Dave Cockrum drew the Power Man Iron Fist ad. Cool. Yeah, see? I knew you would know. Oh, did I skip? Oh, yeah, I did skip. Yes, Miles sucks, but it's because of redundant. Yeah, I don't like when there's two. Unless there's Earth 2 someplace and you got Flash 1 and Flash 2 on different planets. I hate when there's two superheroes with the same name. It just dilutes the coolness. You know what I mean? Especially, like, unless it's an army. You know what I mean? But, like, superheroes are supposed to be individuals. This is America. The rugged individual. You know, the cowboy, the lone guy. That's what superheroes are supposed to be. Superheroes are not supposed to be a collective. They're not supposed to be, there's teams of individuals, with the exception of the Fantastic Four because they're a family, but even they have different names. So I don't like when these individuals are collectivized with the team. I hate the Spider family. This shouldn't be a Spider family. I said it before. I will accept 4. Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, Spider-Boy. That's it. That's it. And even that is pushing it. You know? Even that is pushing it. I don't like when this Spider-Punk, you know what I mean? I don't like it. The most I will accept is 4, and that's pushing it. Well, after reading the X-Men for many years growing up, you develop attachment to certain characters. I like Colossus' first character. Look, he's had numerous crises. Yeah, I do. At this point, I say I like Colossus. I like Cyclops the best, but that's just like a millimeter more than the other ones. You know, these were so good. Every one of these characters were they looked cool. They had cool personalities. They had cool powers. They had cool costumes, and they had cool weaknesses. They had cool characters. Everything about these, it was so good. And then they were so good that it changed DC. They made the classic New Teen Titans in the shadow of the X-Men, and it changed comic books forever. Dave Cockrum drew that. Seeing the X-Men and cities celebrating normal is a big part of the successful hero stories. To me. Yes, that was a big thing. Chris Claremont was big with that, with a big, intense 6 issues in a row, and then like maybe half of the next issue of them playing baseball and softball, swimming in the pool. I love that stuff. I would like to do that in my comics, but you're not going to wait 9 months between issues to have the Patriarch mowing the lawn. Maybe a page of him mowing the lawn, but there better be some robot spiders and volcanic eruptions and dinosaurs. You feel me? I love those character moments in the old. Yeah. That was my favorite old school version of the Hulk. Yeah. Is this Sal Buscema? Hulk copy. Yeah. Hostess Ed. Yeah, I was hoping, but Marcus, you would know it. This looks like a goofy Sal Buscema face to me. Peter Parker should have a child with Mary Jane. Then you can have Spider Child a la DC with the Super Sons. Yeah. I like I said, the illusion of change. If I was to write Spider-Man, I would have, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but I don't know. Does Peter Parker and Mary Jane remember their past now? That's what I heard. So I would have them coyly, shyly talking to each other, re-sparking like a nice, sweet story of them realizing their love for each other. They were married. Like, is their divorce legal? I would go through all of that. Like, were we legally divorced? Are we still married? What's going on? Where do we stand? And then falling back in love and whatever. And then I would have them have a baby. So when they have a baby, it would be May from the Spider-Girl stories. And then Aunt May would meet the baby, hold the baby, and then Aunt May would die peacefully. And then they would find out that the baby, because of Peter's radioactive anomalies, the baby needs medicine. And you get the same thing. Peter Parker's swinging through the city fighting Mysterio, but now he has to get the medicine to the baby. Same responsibility, same weakness. Spider-Man's weakness is dependency. He has a dependent upon him. Change that dependent from the old lady to the baby. The illusion of change. Status quo seems to be different, but it's really the same. I don't have enough money for the baby now. We got to get this baby to a specialist. And it's relatable. I mean, most of the people who read comic books have kids or understand, you know what I mean? Like, it's not 12-year-olds reading comic books anymore that need a doting aunt. 12-year-old kids know about their grandmothers getting sick. But now the average comic book reader is unfortunately is an adult. Marvel did have Spider-Girl. Yeah, they did. Yes. I skipped Oscar. I like the legacy idea, but don't forget, if you can't let the originals evolve. Yeah. I that's one of I want my comics to be like real time, but I reserve the right to jump back in time as far as telling stories. Like Patriarch #1 is now, but then most of it is in the past because he's talking about his origin. And I do want like superheroes to get injured and then somebody else takes up the mantle, but like if I have innate lightning powers, I can't just give my lightning powers to somebody else. I can give my name and my costume, and then that person doesn't have the lightning powers. What good is it? Things like that I like to explore. But like the good example is Captain Marvel Shazam. He could bestow his powers upon the next generation. I like Batman training a Robin to replace him. Things like that is cool, but you got to earn it. I don't like just like, it doesn't bother me that Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel. She was there from the beginning. And she was Miss Marvel for a long time. If anybody, like I really didn't like Monica Rambeau just taking the name Captain Marvel. Who is she? At least they had the wisdom to pretend that Monica Rambeau didn't know that there was another Captain Marvel, which begs the questions: does the average person in the Marvel universe know everything about superheroes? Is it a nerdy niche? You know what I mean? And she just wasn't into it. I could buy that. That makes sense. So she just thought it was a cool sounding name, and then they gave her the name Spectrum, which I think is so much better for her power set. But I'm rambling. I think this is Don Heck. You think this is Don Heck? Okay. Oh, it is Sal Buscema. Okay. Yeah, because I recognize Sal Buscema reuses the same faces, which is why when people criticize some artists for using the same faces, to me it's not fair, because a lot of the artists use the same face. George Perez, later on George Perez started using more face, but John Byrne famously used the same face over and over again. So busted as a comic book artist for using the same face, it's like that to me just shows that you don't really know comics. It's just, but that is right there. That is the classic Sal Buscema face, for the thug. Buscema's Hulk had so much personality. I thought my mind filled in no personality. I was about to argue with you, Dave, but it was my brain being wrong. It's my brain being wrong. As a Batman fan who doesn't, with the characters to expire, he does have to, in order for 6. Right. Now, like, how many times have we Spider-Man retired or Batman retired and somebody else took it over? We know it's not going to last, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. And I do like that Batman Beyond, it was set in the future where Batman's old and gray. I like that. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. And I like that, they did that with Spider-Man 2099. And normally I don't like comics set outside of the normal continuity, with few exceptions. I did like Marvel's M2. Age of Apocalypse was a fun 4-issue series. I don't want to explore it forever. Age of Future Past, I don't want to explore it forever. I'm not interested in the Ultimate line, Absolute line, the purple line, the B2 1642 line. I want regular comics done well. So now we got more setup. Half a day later, halfway around the world, it's still Christmas Day in the legendary Flying Scot Express train from London to Edinburgh. Jean Grey, who's come to terms with the death of the X-Men, and most painful of all, Scott Summers, who's now ready to start picking up the pieces of her life once more. She thinks the X-Men were slain in issue 114. Among the passengers, a slim, redhead young woman, fresh from 6 weeks vacation in the Greek Isles. So, Jean Grey. Wow, it's midday and the sun's barely risen. No wonder Edinburgh's 700 miles below the Arctic Circle. Winter days are short here. I guess it's a good thing that since becoming the Phoenix, my body hardly feels the heat or cold anymore. That's an interesting little comment. Jeannie, welcome to Scotland and a happy Christmas. Alex, Myra, Lorna, Jamie, people, are you sight for sore eyes? I worked hard to get it. So they're just chit-chatting, and so we got Alex, Cyclops' brother, that's Havok, Myra McTaggart. I've always loved Myra McTaggart. I just love the character. And now she's a mutant herself. Who's not a mutant at this point? Lorna Dane, Polaris, and Jamie, the Multiple Man. Listen up. A train station, no proper place for a union. Yes, this is my plan. We'll spend a few days in Edinburgh, see the sights. We hit Jean's tales of our wild woolly weeks in the Aegean, and then we'll head for Muir Island. And now, set up for the next thing. We got this island in the what sea is this? The Baltic? What sea is this? I don't even know. Does it tell us? It just says Atlantic. So okay, it's the Atlantic. Which Myra McTaggart's Mutant Research Center. For over the years, she made it clear that she likes her privacy. So now we got Angus McWhirter. His name is Angus McWhirter. He once rented the X-Men a hovercraft. It was then destroyed. And ever since, even though he was paid in full for his losses, he's nursed a deep and growing hatred for them. I like that they tell us that the X-Men paid him, because Magneto destroyed his hovercraft. His hovercraft was filled with eels. He destroyed it, and now he hates the X-Men. And what's he doing? He's going to blow up the X-Men base. So he stumbles in, and he opens up a door. If some people get hurt along the way, so much the better. What's that? Human, I need you. And he doesn't even have time to scream. Dun, dun, dun. Wanted Wolverine, dead or alive. So I like this. Now, right now, Chris Claremont is hitting his stride. Now he's working the A story, the B story, the subplots. It's just, this is the official boom. This is just great. The rest of the series was wonderful, great, excellent before this. But now I think this is where Chris and John, everything congeals and they just make the classic X-Men from this point forward. Everything for the next 30 issues is just gold at this point. There's not a miss. Oh, it's chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Let's see the comments. Soda Jerk Classic says, I really enjoyed X-Men 2099. Me too. I like the 2099 series. The Spider-Man 2099 was surprisingly good. The Iron Man one wasn't that great. Unfortunately, comics are totally overpriced for kids. I don't think Marvel or DC will ever make manga-style variety comics. The American industry model must change. Yeah, you're right. Do I know what the solution is? Absolutely not. But something ain't working. Something ain't working. And this is a precarious time for comics. X-Men 2099 is interesting. Proteus. Yep. I know Oscar's been chomping at the bit for this. This is so good. This is so good. By the way, Spider-Man 2099 is the best Spider-Man costume design. I will disagree. I like the original Ditko design, but it is a good costume. Cool. Is Proteus next? Nope. Not yet. We gotta put that on the back burner for a couple of issues. The North Sea, maybe? It's a future Day of Death costume. Oh, yeah. Is it like based on it's a future Day of Death costume? You talking about Spider-Man 2099 costume? Yeah, it's got like that skull. Yeah, that was, like I said, that was a better comic than it had any right to. Look at this. It's been so long. And you can see, like, I got dog ears and everything. Revolutionary War toys, more ads. But this is the actual comic that I bought off the stand. I don't have any other one. You know, it's a little bit more beat up than I like. I got to see, you know, do I need to replace it? I don't think so. Sorry, John, you can't take any Sundays off. John Byrne demands. I don't plan on it. Even when I work overtime on Sundays, I'll do it later. I really like Sunday comics is my favorite thing I do on my channel, and I'm glad so many other people join me with this. I really, really, really like it. And, you know, a couple of people every once in a while, can I come in on Sunday comics and talk with it? I did once. I had Anthony, guy from it. We did a Silver Surfer series. That was fun. You know, I'm not against having somebody come on and talk with me, but for the most part, I just like this way it works. You know, and then It's Clobbering Time is next. I just wish I didn't. I wish I could do the 8:30 slot. That seemed to be the best. The midnight slot is killing it, but gotta work. So there you go. At this point, I would talk about what's going on my channel. I don't think I have anything. I've been letting my channel slide because this work schedule is just killing me. Oh, I just realized I was supposed to have a talk with Richard Embry, and I forgot all about it. I'll have to reach out to him. I have nothing planned. Nothing planned for this week. I'll see if I can do a comic book team up with RJ on Wednesday night, midnight, and then It's Clobbering Time Friday night. We're going to do Batman versus Captain America, and then next week we will do X-Men 120, first appearance of Alpha Flight. So there we go. The question and answer format is what makes your show popular. Got to go to church. Have a good day. Yeah, this format for this, go to church. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun. And so now we're done with the comic. An hour and 45 minutes. These comics are so good. These comics are so good. Wow. Only 30 more weeks I could change to the Avengers. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about those Avengers. Not that I'm tired of the X-Men. These are so good. But anyway, as long as the comments keep coming, I'll stay alive. I will take a sip of coffee and give you guys. If once the comments die, the episode dies. It's funny, as a kid, I didn't notice that this was drawn by somebody else. What a good cover. What do you guys think of this cover? It's a fun cover. Action adventure. Oscar says, what other saga is worth to read here? I mean, I would love to do the Walt Simonson Thor, the John Byrne Fantastic Four. Maybe even the George Perez Fantastic Four, you know, like what the run that made me love comics, you know, like the Thor run from like 160 with the High Evolutionary and Galactus and all that. This is so good. So good. You know, this X-Men run is so. Man of Steel is a good one. That's a good choice. The Outsiders, another good choice. I really do prefer team books to single characters because the interaction and interpersonal relationships. Yeah, I like them both for different reasons. I like that we get to, but even a solo book is a team book. I mean, you read a Superman book, you get Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White. You know what I mean? You don't get superheroes. You get a Spider-Man book, you get Mary Jane. You get a supporting character group. But I know what you mean. You know, a comic book with just one character and everybody else is transitional character. I don't know. Can anybody think of a comic book that was at least successful doing that? You know, maybe like the Blue Beetle back in the 40s. You know, every Prez's Teen Titans. Yeah, whatever it would do. That's a good choice. New Warriors by Mike. These are all great choices. You know, I would, you know, if I was retired, believe me, I would do every day. I would do this every day. This is just fun enjoyment. You know, wake up 10 o'clock every day, do my YouTube. I would do this every day. So let's all chip in and buy me lottery tickets or super chat. Make it, you know, make it worthwhile to quit my job. I would do this every day. This is so much fun. You know, we got super chat options. Like, subscribe. I'm the worst YouTuber. I never mention all that kind of stuff. Buy multiple copies of my comic book. You know, I joke around, but it's, you know, if my comics make over 10 grand, then Oscar and Renzo get bonuses. You know, that's the first thing. So let's get Patriarch #1 to hit 20 grand, because it's going to be bigger, so it's going to cost more to make, and then we could give Oscar and Renzo bonuses. You know, because without Oscar and Renzo, my comics, you know, who cares? You know, without that glorious colors and artwork. So there we go. Let's super chat so I can do these every day, and there we go. I feel like a beggar. I feel dirty saying that. Ugh. How can you be one of these YouTubers that is just like, give me money, give me money, give me money? You know, I think the best YouTubers are people who don't need YouTube. You know what I mean? They just do it because they like it. You know, that's what I think. Maybe I'm biased, you know, but at the same time, I don't get to do everything I want because I'm at the dictates of my real job. Oh, Courtney, haven't seen Courtney in a long time. Hi, nice job on your midnight music the other night. Oh, cool, good. I'm glad you liked it. Did it sound okay? Because I don't want to do it if it sounds like garbage. But to me, it sounded fine because I was just clicking on everything, and I was, you know, I got these great speakers here. But when I listened to it in my car, it sounded like garbage. So did it sound good to you guys? Have a nice day, Sunday, Fred. Okay, and at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Dave always has a drink with Brink. You too? I like that. Oh, good. It did sound good. Okay, maybe it was just something weird, and I knew it was going to happen. like, of course, instantly it was flagged as it's demonetized, but I didn't do it for the money or anything like that. I mean, I don't have that subscriber base where and nor do I depend on YouTube for money. I was afraid, like, it seems like people's channels just get nuked. So I was just hoping that, it wouldn't, mark me for destruction. And so far it hasn't. What I should have done is put the names of the songs in the chat, because I knew the names of the songs and I just assumed everybody did. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I did a Monday music on I did midnight music on Thursday night. I just played old punk rock songs just because I needed to get some anger and aggression out. You had my all-time favorite punk album, Young, Loud. Oh, really? That is a great album. That is a great album. The Dead Boys, Young, Loud, and Snotty is one of the best albums of all time, if you ask me. So I assume you watched it later. Like, I'm curious, Courtney, how did you find out about it? Because you weren't there in the chat, so I assume you didn't watch it live. So how did did it just pop up on your algorithm or whatever? Super chats disrupt the flow of conversation and disingenuous, kind of like cheap radio DJ blow. Though I kind of agree. The money's nice. I'm not going to lie. Every bit helps. Every drop helps, said the woman as she peed into the ocean. But I do agree that it causes you to, as much as I rag on your boy Zach, he is right. And I didn't get it until I started getting super chats, which admittedly aren't a lot. But like, when you do get them, it's like, oh boy, I got a super chat. The very first super chat I ever got was by people whose names I don't even want to talk about. They dropped $40, and I was like, oh my god! So I was like, oh, thank you, and then I didn't realize that they were making fun of my guest, who was Eric July. And as I'm reading it, I realized they dropped $40, and I jumped like a monkey and insulted my guest. And Eric July was a gracious gentleman about it, and I apologized to him, and I even offered. I was like, "You want half this money?" And he's like, "No." He was really cool about it. And I went to investigate these people, and I saw that was their motif. They go around and they bother Eric July. So I kind of make a policy. I've said it a few times, but it's not like super chats are a big part of my channel, so it's not like I need to talk. But just because you super chat me, I'm not a monkey. I'm not going to insult my guests. And I kind of wait. Like, I can see when they pop up. So I agree with you. I don't want, if I'm going on a rant about Cyclops' physics and we're having a good time discussing the nature of Storm's powers, and then you super chat me about what's my favorite cereal, I'm going to wait. And I'll read that super chat because you got to. That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? But I'm going to wait till it's a good time. I don't want to interrupt the whole flow. Like, I don't want you, because you threw $2 at me to dictate the show. And you know what I mean? And some people get it. They're just like, hey, it's $5. I really like what you're talking about. That, I appreciate that. That's fine. But some people just like, I just want to control something. So here's $2. Let's talk about cereal. Even though, what did you think about, whatever, or I want to insult Eric July, or whatever. I don't like Comicsgate, or I like Comicsgate, or you just want to throw money in to have some sort of control over the show. Now, I think, you could do like a little, okay, we're done with this, we'll talk about that kind of thing. So I do agree. I agree. And then I also feel like you just want attention. I mean, it's whatever. But I mean, if you're doing it because you like the show and you want to help out, and you defray the cost of StreamYards or whatever, or help me make a comic book, that by all means, thank you so much. That's really great. But I never bring it up. Today I'm bringing it up, but it's kind of like, I got a job. My comics pay for themselves. The Dead Boys. I love the Dead Boys. This was my feed. Oh, okay, cool. Well, it's good to see you back. Courtney was one of my original chatters, people in the chat. So it's good to see you back. I'm trying to remember where we talked about the first time, but I remember, was it you were singing on, you showed a video of you singing a song. I'm trying to remember where that was. I'll still do. Oh, sure. Do you have Twitter? Direct message me on Twitter, or send me an email at johnslongbox@yahoo.com. And yeah, we'll talk music. Absolutely. Safe European Home. Yep, I played that. Maybe have a super chat show by itself as it. Yeah, but then I'm going to be embarrassed because nobody's going to super chat. That's just like the e-begging show. You know what I mean? That's just like, hey guys, here's a show whose sole purpose is to beg. I don't want to do that either. I don't want to do that either. You know, it's kind of goofy. Again, if you want to super chat, by all means, super chat. But a couple of caveats. I'm not going to insult my guest, which only happened once. And I'm not your jumping monkey either. And we're not going to be friends. I'm the worst as far as like super chat. But, if I'll get to your questions. It's not like I got 32 people watching. You put it in the chat, I respond to everybody. You don't need to super chat for me to respond. But like if you want to take over the control, or if you want me to dance monkey dance, you know what I mean? I'm not a cam girl. But if you're like, hey dude, I really like what you're doing. Here's $5 for StreamYard. Thank you. You know what I mean? Here you go. I like make more comic books, hire Oscar to do another page. That's fine. That's fine. That, I welcome that. I'm not independently wealthy. But like when super chats and YouTube becomes your main income, first off, you're depending upon the fates of the gods. Like YouTube is so inconsistent. Like how can you raise children, have a house, plan, get your healthcare and stuff like that dependent upon YouTube? It's so risky. I couldn't do it. Like when I retire and I have all my finances in order and I could do YouTube every day. Yeah, and then my channel gets nuked and I start all over again and do it again. Yeah, it's gonna be annoying. Yeah, I'm gonna be pissed, but like it doesn't cause me to become homeless. You know what I mean? Like YouTube is supposed to be a hobby. You become a weird person when you do YouTube for money. Oh yeah, it's me singing Joan Jett. It's a short on my channel. Yes, I remember seeing that. Yes, with Greg Hedson from the Circle Jerks in Bed, Religion on Guitar, Stan Lee from the Dickies also in the bed. Yeah, these are great. I had a Dickies song all lined up, and then my internet went all wonky. If you saw it towards the end, so I bailed. But I had a bunch of more songs. I was talking to one of my coworkers, an old guy with a beard. He's more of a wizard than me with this big long beard. We were talking about punk rock, and I was like, isn't it funny that two old punkers now were like old Gandalf and Saruman, talking about the days when punks ruled the earth. At least you have an honest venture in order to receive super chats. To be solely dependent upon YouTube money is yes, it's risky, it's cheesy, it's I don't know. I don't know. It's again, I don't want to. It's real stupid of me to discourage people from sending me super, but like, I don't know. If you want to, great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But and it's funny because I saw a clip of somebody who depends on super chats, and somebody said, "How much do I have to super chat you to get you to shave your beard?" And this person was all like, "Oh, I'm not, how much F your mother?" And all I can think of is just like, this is what you're doing. I've seen you super chat eating food out of the garbage. I was there. I was physically there. So like, once you're taking super chats to eat food out of the garbage, you're a clown. You know what I mean? I don't. So there you go. It's risky and desperate. Yeah. It's begging. There's no difference than begging for super chats and walking down the street asking for money. YouTube and TikTok is the new generation job. I student great industrial design who dropped everything to stream video games. I know. There's a guy I know, big tough macho guy, law enforcement, could crush anybody. This guy works out. He works on a farm, just like a salt of the earth guy, a man's man type of guy. And he just doesn't understand. His son makes a fortune playing video games on YouTube. And he's just like, how is that? And he's been doing it for a while, and his son is married. His son has a house, and his son has a child. And he's like, and this guy just sits around playing video games for a living. Like, I think, he's happy that the kid is able to pay his bills, but part of him is just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know. If believe me, if I could make a living talking about comic books and I didn't have to be the performing monkey, I would do it in a heartbeat. This is fun. But I'm realistic. I'm not quitting my job anytime soon. For the $100 I make, I make enough to pay for StreamYard on YouTube. To be honest, that's about it. And what message? I'm getting a bunch of messages. Who's messaging me? Oh, okay. All right. What is this? Courtney says, even though I know there's a bad blood around these communities, I'm just a neutral person when it comes. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. Just, yeah, that's the best thing to be. That's the best thing to be. Absolutely. Stay away from all the drama. That was my New Year's resolution. And I came this close to breaking it just now. But that's my New Year's resolution. Just live and let be, live and let live. Live and let live. You do you. That's fine. So anything else to say? Anything else? Anybody? Bueller? Oh, I've never given anyone a super chat. That's fine too. I've given one super chat for promotion. Talk about my comic. And I don't even think it was read. that was it. I can understand that. But then you groove and you're talking about Cyclops' beams and the physics work like this. Buy Ovaltine. Drink your Ovaltine. You know what I mean? Right in the middle of it. It's kind of hokey. What can we do? So, all right. Anything? Buy your Ovaltine, ladies and gentlemen. Renzo is chugging away on Patriarch number 1. He just submitted another page. He says, he says he'll be done soon. He's just chugging along, So I think right now his main focus is Patriarch. A lot of times he's doing a couple of projects at once, which I don't blame him for doing. He's got to pay those bills. Renzo's got children. So I think all his other obligations. I think he's caught up in all his obligations, and he's just churning out Patriarch pages. So I'm hoping to set up the campaign sooner rather than later. I don't want to give an exact date, because then justifiably, if you don't match it, people are gonna hold you over the coals. So just sooner rather than later with the new campaign for Patriarch number 1. It's exciting. And then we're working on Eddie is Doomed. I was just talking with Tonic Bowl yesterday about some things about that. So exciting. And like I said, if I didn't write anything, I literally have 7 years worth of stories. But I want to see if I could get a Christmas story done and in your hands by Christmas. So I got to finish writing that story. King Fu Blue Christmas. Oscar says, I'll start with the Patriarch colors next week. Great. I don't follow the crowd. I don't either. And my proof of that is I refused to wear a mask during COVID. I stood my ground. And I never got this stupid COVID shot. I stood my ground to the point like family members were ostracizing me. Friends were ostracizing me. I lost my D&D group because of that. I'm just one of these. We all pretend to like the individual until the individual does individual stuff. We are hardwired to be crowd people. And then when you are an individual, we pretend to admire that. And then and even when it came to the comic book field, I criticized everybody. I like to think I was honest. And then they came down on me like a bag of hammers, because I was honest with my criticism. Tony's here. How you doing, Tony? Everybody saying hello. Tony, go to the Frontier Diner and get some. What is it called? Hominy. I miss all the food. I miss all the food out in Albuquerque. All right. Speaking of food, I'm pretty hungry. I want to go eat. I always wake up, have my coffee, and then I eat after this, because if I eat before this, I get like lazy and sleepy. I do better when I'm hungry. When I'm full, I just was like, bleh. So there you go. All right, I'm gonna end this, and as per usual, I don't have a lot because of my work schedule. Courtney, if you want to do a stream about music, I would love to do it. I'm working 3 to 11, so Eastern Standard Time, so like noon or midnights is good for me, and I can stay up all night because I don't have to wake up in the morning. So if you want to do a stream like that would be fun for me, and that goes for anybody. I really haven't been pursuing professionals, comic book pros, because of the schedule. If anybody has a professional that they're friendly with, recommend them. I'd like to do that again. It's been a while. It's not a good comic if it isn't late. That's not 100% true, but I know you're goofing, right? Your comic looks like it came out on time. That's what killed me. Making fun of people's comics that come out on time, and then you release a comic that's 6 years late that reads like as if the word balloons were out of order. I'm at the Frontier Diner now eating a cinnamon roll. There you go. My wife is probably upstairs getting jealous. She sees those pictures of those cinnamon rolls. I'm going to do that. One of these days, one of these years, I want to go take my wife to Albuquerque and just eat at all of my favorite Albuquerque restaurants. Food in Albuquerque is so good. Well, chat. So, either DM me on Twitter, Centaurian2000@yahoo.com, goofy name, or at johnslongbox@yahoo.com. Enjoy your day. I'm good for a late night. There you go. Talk about some punk. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We got some good stuff coming out for Longbox Comics. So this is my plan. So Patriarch #1, Eddie is Doomed, and Punchline, Giant Size Punchline #1. Okay, that alone is a good year, and I would really, really like to do this Christmas story. So I got 3 Christmas stories in mind right now. That one a year. So Renzo will draw the Patriarch, maybe Blue Christmas, then Heroic Tales 3. And then after that, I'm hoping that everybody else, I got these scripts out, that they'll be completed so I could do Heroic Tales 4 with other than Renzo, so that Renzo could do this Santa Claus story that I really want to do. That's my plan. That's my plan. That's my plan. But God laughs at the plans of men. So, but there you go. All right. Good night, everybody. So at this point, it's time to say goodbye, kids.